Hello everyone. I have to come up with Bangladesh again because Bangladesh is kind of in quagmire in these days, and the new facts are coming out that is revealing the intentions of the United States, the Chinese MSS, Pakistani ISI, and United Kingdom MI6. And all these groups or espionage groups were involved in organizing the regime change operations in Bangladesh. We need to talk about that, and we need to know that what is the link between Muhammad Yusuf and his Nobel Peace Prize, because when we will getting into the Nobel Peace Prize committees, then how politically influenced the Nobel Peace Prize committee is, and how Nobel Peace Prize winner has been used by the United States, by the Western countries to influence the regime change operations in several countries. And we have already observed the regime change operations in Pakistan, and we have already observed the regime change operation in Afghanistan and several other countries that we need to discuss over here. And what is the link between Donald Lu? Because Donald Lu is kind of an regime change man in the State Department, how he have organized the regime change operation in Pakistan as well as in Bangladesh, that we need to know. Before getting into the Muhammad Yunus and the link between the regime change and his pimps, those who were working behind him and use him as the face of the regime change operations of Bangladesh, how they have used him, we need to know that what is the recent controversies or the controversies which has happened in the past regarding the Nobel Peace Prize and the regime change operations. To know that, we need to discuss some of the examples that are very important. Let me tell you some of the examples. In 1989, Dalai Lama was given Nobel Peace Prize because he was very critical of China at that time. In 1990, Mikhail Gorbachev was given Nobel Peace Prize because he was one of the main man behind the disintegrations of the Soviet Union, and his policies were responsible of disintegrations of Soviet Union. And he at that time was trying to build up relationship with the United States and the other Western countries in the name of openness. We can say about the Glasnost and Perestroika. Perestroika was the policy that was implemented by Mikhail Gorbachev. As a result, Soviet Union disintegrated, and he was given Nobel Peace Prize. In 1991, Aung San Suu Kyi is the leader of Myanmar. She was given the Nobel Peace Prize because she was very much critical of military regime in Myanmar. And in 1999, the Doctors Without Border were given Nobel Peace Prize. Why these organizations was given the Nobel Peace Prize? Because the doctors, those who were working in this organization, was working in the Eastern European countries. And at that time, the Yugoslavia, once a country, was in the boil on the basis of the ethnic line. And those ethnic lines were being nurtured by the Western countries to divide the countries in different other countries, as they have planned for the Soviet Union at that time. So Doctors Without Borders were working in those countries to use those organizations' members to use those fault lines to divide the countries in the different parts. And what are the main geopolitical events had happened at that time? 1999, 24th March, NATO bombed Serbia. 28th February 1998, Kosovo War. These are all the geopolitical events were linked to these organizations, the Doctors Without Border, behind giving this organization the Nobel Peace Prize. And surprisingly, this group is funded by Microsoft, Google, Humble Bundle, and the Bloomberg. What are these organizations? These are the organizations at the backbone of American political donations. In 2012, the European Union was given Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because of what? Because these groups, or linked to these groups, the NATO bombed Libya on 19th March 2011 under the fake pretense. That is why it was given the Nobel Prize. And the NATO was also responsible of creating a failed regime in Iraq. Because of that, the European Union that was linked to the NATO was given the Nobel Peace Prize in 2012. I am just raising the questions because there are so many questions, so many false pretense that was created to given the Nobel Peace Prize to some kind of organization, those who are clandestinely linked to the regime change operations. In 2010, Louis Xiaobo, the Chinese descent, was given Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Why he was given Nobel Peace Prize? Because he was talking against the China's dictatorships at that time. That was good. He was talking about Chinese dictators and he was talking against the Chinese policies. But he was given to annoy China. As a result of that, the China retaliated the decision by freezing the diplomatic relations and trade talks with Norway. Norway knew that, but even after that, the Nobel Peace Prize was given. Now we all know about Malala Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai was given Nobel Peace Prize because he was shot by Taliban in her head. But the world forget about the other two girls, those who were also shot by Taliban, not in their head, but in their shoulder and the hands. And those two girls were Kainat Riaz and Shazia Ramzan. They were not given the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because they were not shot in the head. And Malala received Nobel Peace Prize along with Kailash Satyarthi of India in 2014. Recently, Malala teamed up with Clinton Foundations. The Clintons are the promiscuous characters in American political history, those who are responsible for engaging clandestine operation around the world like regime change. And she recently condemned Israel and expressed her full support or open support to Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization by the United States, UK and the several other European countries. And in those countries, she loves to live right now. She is not living in Pakistan. She is living sometimes in UK, sometimes in France, sometimes in Norway, sometimes in the United States. And how she is earning that much of money living in those countries, because living in these countries are very, very expensive. She is not living alone. She is living with her parents. She is living with her sisters and the brothers. But she can afford because she is being backed by the regime change guys in the Western countries. And she openly supported Pakistani jihadi groups responsible for killing several innocent peoples and the Indian military leaders in Kashmir. She chose not to raise her voice for Hindus. Those are being persecuted by Pakistani jihadi groups. Hindus, those who are living in Pakistan. And she openly supported so-called farmer protest in India in the name of human rights, but chose not to raise human rights violations that are being done by the Pakistani military against the Baloch population, those are Muslims, Sindhi population, those are Muslims, and the Pashto population, those are Muslims. But she chose not to raise her voice because Pakistani government is being supported by US political groups or US clandestine operating groups or CIA, and US always used Pakistan against the countries in the South Asia and the Central Asia. Always Pakistan has always been the pimp of the United States, and that country is being used by the United States since it came into existence in 1947. Now in 2011, in 2019, the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was given the Nobel Peace Prize for resolving the standing border dispute with Eritrea. Eritrea is Africa's North Korea. And to resolve the border disputes, he was given the Nobel Peace Prize. Now Abiy Ahmed himself is in controversy for political and the social persecutions of Tigray populations. He is responsible for the Tigray genocides. Not only that, the several other human rights groups accused Abiy's government of intimidating the media, as well as some of the groups, those who are working on the behalf of the Tigray, those who are working to support or to sending the benefits regarding the human rights things to these groups, but all these groups are being suppressed by the Abiy Ahmed. The groups, those who are raising voice for the Tigray population, the media groups, the human rights groups, the NGOs, those who are working for the Tigray population, all these groups has been oppressed by the Abiy Ahmed, but he has been given the Nobel Peace Prize. And there are other several Nobel Peace Prize winners in these days. I mean, in 2020, 2022, all these Peace Prize winners are politically motivated. In 2022, the Peace Prize winner was the Ukraine Center for Civil Liberties. Why these groups was given the Nobel Peace Prize? Because this group was working with the Ukrainian army, who were responsible for killing his own populations. The army, those who were responsible for raping his own population by bombing his own population in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. But that group was there to give the Ukrainian army the cover fire, to give the world the propaganda against the Russians. That is why the Ukrainian Center for the Civil Liberties was given the Nobel Peace Prize. Not only him, not only these groups, but the Ales Bialatsky is a Belarusian journalist. He was given the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because he was against the Belarusian president, the Alexander Lukashenko. The Lukashenko is very much and prominently standing with Russia and the Russia's position. He is talking about the peaceful resolutions in Ukrainian resolutions. That is why this man, the Ales Bialatsky, because of his critical view of Belarusian regime, that is why he has been given the Nobel Peace Prize. Not only him, there was another man whose name is Dmitry Maratov, the Russian journalist, has been given the Nobel Peace Prize because he is very much critical of Putin, the president of Russia. That is why he was given the Nobel Peace Prize. The 2022 Nobel Peace Prize was highly politically motivated. In 2021, the Maria Ressa was given the Nobel Peace Prize. Who was Maria Ressa? Maria Ressa was a Filipino journalist who was favoring the United States and standing against his own country's independent foreign policy. He criticizes his own government. That is why she was given the Nobel Peace Prize. And the Nobel Peace Prize was given to the Barack Obama. Why? Nobody knows why. Because he was given the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009. And in 2009, in 2008, he became the president of the United States for the first time. But he was given the Nobel Peace Prize because he was black, because he became the first president of the United States who was black. And one of the members, those who have elected Barack Obama as the Nobel Peace Prize winner, later expressed his agony of choosing Barack Obama as the Nobel Peace Prize winner. And that name is Geir Landestad, the Norwegian Nobel Committee former secretary. And he expressed his voice, and according to his voice, the Obama was given the Nobel Peace Prize 2 years prior. And many of the Obama supporters believed that the prize was a mistake. It was a mistake because Barack Obama is responsible of killing several innocent population in Iraq, Libya, and Afghanistan. He was responsible for giving the order of drone attack which bombed the marriage ceremonies in Afghanistan, hospitals in Afghanistan. So that man was given the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because he was favoring the military-industrial complex at that time. That is why he was given the Nobel Peace Prize. And his Nobel Peace Prize was lobbied by the military groups, military-industrial complex of the United States. Not only the military groups and the groups or the NGOs, those who are working as a leftist organizations and the communist organizations of the United States, because United States openly hate communisms, but they do follow the communisms in their government policies. And here is the newspaper outlet which talked about that Nobel Peace Prize winners have the deep CIA links. I am talking in front of you with the proofs. Without the proofs, I will not going to give you anything. And the Nobel Peace Prize is highly politicized, and this Peace Prize is operated by the groups, those who are elites, those who are running the global economy from behind, global economy behind the curtain. You will not going to know their names. Most of these elites are mainly running the asset management investment firms such as BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, Fidelity, and the other asset management companies. And these companies are holding shares in the largest banks of America, such as the JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and the several other banks. And these asset management companies are also running the weapon manufacturing groups such as the Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, and Pratt & Whitney, Boeing, and the several other companies. So you can clearly understand that how influenced this Nobel Peace Prize is. And all these groups that I have mentioned do not have the owner. They are being held. Their owner, there is no ownership. All these groups are being owned by the some of the other groups, those who are linked to the some of the other groups, and who are funding those groups. That is not known to anyone because that is not in the public domain. And these asset management companies are also running the NGOs in the United States, and NGOs that are being funded by the State Departments, and the NGOs that are being funded by the CIA, controlled by the CIA. And those NGOs are running several other NGOs in the several other countries. And these NGOs, those who are in the working domestically in the host countries, these NGOs are being used by the CIA or the groups, those who are working behind the CIA, to operate the regime change operations. Why the regime change operations is being done? Because these groups do think that they have to come up with some of the military bases in the other countries. They have the vested interest in the other countries. The recent examples is Bangladesh. I have already talked about Bangladesh and why the United States was so much interested. I have already talked about the St. Helena Island, already talked about the countries like the East Timor based on the Christianity. Now we will going to talk about the link, Muhammad Yunus, CIA, regime change, and Clinton Foundation. There are so many questions, and these questions need to be answered. And there are no answer, but I have came up with a deep research and found out that what are the links between the Yunus. The Yunus's name was not there as the head of the nations when the riot was going on in Bangladesh. But when the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh, the protester or the coordinator of the protester, those who were organizing the protest at that time, his name was Nahid Islam. He came up with the name of Muhammad Yunus, and he openly supported Muhammad Yunus to form the interim government. He openly supported Muhammad Yunus to advise the interim government, but Muhammad Yunus has been elected or selected by the groups, those who are working behind, to help to form the government under his watch. And everyone accepted him as the interim government are all linked to the CIA. The Bangladesh regime change is kind of or similar to the 1953 Iran coup, which was orchestrated by the CIA to remove the democratically elected government of Iran led by Mohammad Mossadegh. Why he was removed? Because he nationalized the Anglo-Iranian oil company, which was stealing money from Iran that was belongs to the Iranian people, and he was removed. He was removed with the help of Raza Shah Pahlavi, was the king of Iran at that time. This time the Yunus, the pimp of the CIA, is in the Bangladesh's throne, who has the great relationship with Hilary Clinton's and the American political establishments. He was given the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 for so-called social work through the Grameen Bank. And why his link with Hilary Clinton is so deep? Because he have invested huge amounts of money in the Clinton foundations. He openly supported Hilary Clinton for the presidentship in 2016. And he also funded Hilary Clinton's presidency. He is a bloodsucker. The Muhammad Yunus is a bloodsucker. The bloodsucker is not my word. It is a word of the Bangladesh High Court for stealing 252 million Bangladeshi taka, which is equivalent to the 2 million US dollar. And he was stealing the money from the workers' fund. Workers' fund of the Green Bank, or the bank he was running. That workers' fund was meant for his company's workers, working day and night to make his organizations great, or to make his organizations to make more amount of money. But he was looting money on the behalf of the organization, those who were operating from the United States. So you can clearly see the intentions of these groups, how they worked, how they have used their pimps in Bangladesh to organize the protest in the countries. And his links has been established by these newspaper reports. And he has been given not only the Nobel Peace Prize, he has also given several other prize linked to the United States. He has been given so many other help by the United States. He has always been the dear friends of the United Regime Change operating groups. So Yunus also marred with the controversy. His company, the Grameen Telecom, I have talked about the $2 million money laundering from his own organization, Grameen Telecom. And this Grameen Telecom's share, 34.2% share, is being held by the Norway's telecom giant Telenor. Norway. Here is the link. You can clearly find the link between the Nobel Peace Prize and the Muhammad Yunus and the regime change. The Norwegian political regimes is responsible for giving the Nobel Peace Prize, and the Telenor belongs to the Norway. So here is the link. Here is the link we need to know and we need to discuss. We need to discuss in open. And recently, Pakistan was given $100 million. Why? You can clearly establish the link between $100 million and Bangladeshi regime change operation. The $100 million may be required, may have been invested in Bangladeshi regime change operation by the ISI, because ISI needed money to organize the regime change operations. And the Indian geopolitical experts has already talked about these regime change operations. The Bijoy Patel, an activist, said that the Muhammad Yunus was one of the main mastermind behind the Bangladeshi regime change. He said that the Yunus is the winner of the famous Raman Magsaysay Award. The Raman Magsaysay Award is one of the tool of the regime change operators, and that has also been used against India, which is funded by the Ford Foundations and the Rockefeller Foundations, that Raman Magsaysay Award. Who are these Rockefellers? The Rockefellers are running the world oil groups. There are several organizations oil organizations, those who have created the monopoly in the favor of the Rockefeller groups. Rockefeller have invested heavily in the oil businesses. And the Ford Foundations is also have created the monopoly in the car business, have also created the monopoly in the other businesses. They have heavily influenced the American educational systems. They have manipulated the educational system of the United States to let those students know only about the things they wanted to give and they wants to give. And why I have been talking about the ISI and the Saudi links, because India Today, citing the intelligence report, reported that the blueprint of the Operation Regime Change was drafted in London in collaboration with ISI and implemented in Bangladesh. And Bangladeshi officials claim that they have the evidence of meeting between the BNP's acting chairman Tariq Rahman and the ISI officials in Saudi Arabia. Who is BNP? BNP is the political party, the fundamental political party of Bangladesh run by Khaleda Zia. Who is Khaleda Zia? Khaleda Zia is the wife of the Pakistani general who was operating against India in 1965 war. And there is another link of the Jamaat-e-Islami. Jamaat-e-Islami is the terrorist group. You can say the terrorist group openly, because this group is responsible for the Hindu genocides in Bangladesh. And this group has been used by ISI, by CIA, by Chinese and MI6 to do such kinds of operations or the regime change operations in Bangladesh. And that group has been used to make the peaceful operation or peaceful protest in Bangladesh violent. The quota protest was peaceful, and the students, those who were engaged, they were peacefully protesting against the Bangladeshi government. And Bangladeshi High Court already reduced the quota from 56% to 7%. Even after that, the quota protest became violent. The students started demanding that the Sheikh Hasina should be removed from the power. Why? They started with the quota, then after that they came up in the political matter. After that they demanded that Sheikh Hasina should be removed. These are the links that we have came up with, and these are the links are very much important in today's time. After the protest became violent and the protesters removed Sheikh Hasina is asking for asylum in India as well as in UK. UK has already denied to give asylum to Sheikh Hasina. United States banned her passport. So there is a link. There are hidden link. You can clearly establish how United States, UK has orchestrated these regime change operations. And after the regime change operations, the Jamaat-e-Islami, groups of Jamaat-e-Islamis and BNP started killing Hindu population, started killing the political parties members of the Awami League's member. Awami League was the political party of Sheikh Hasina. And his hotels, one of the hotels belongs to the Awami League's members, was burned. And the people, those who were in that building, they were also burned. 14 Awami League's members were burned alive. The temples has been burned. The deities has been desecrated. The Hindu deities has been desecrated. But United States cannot see the regime change operations over here. They are very much happy of what happened in Bangladesh because they wanted it, because they funded it, because they needed the military base in Bangladesh. That is why they are very much, the United States political government is very much ecstatic that what happened in Bangladesh. Now they cannot see the regime change operation, the violence, the human rights violations against the Hindu populations. They cannot see that because they will, for this time, will play the blind man. And they have already started playing the blind man. This is the hypocrisy of the United States political regime. This is the hypocrisy that this is how the United States play their game. Now we need to know who is Alfred Nobel. Has he have done something peaceful for the India or peaceful for the world or peaceful for the world peace? No. He have discovered something which was very much destructive, which has proven to be the destructive for the world. He invented dynamite, and he also invented the nitroglycerin that used in making bombs. And he patented it in 1867. He further invented guillotine in 1875 and ballistae in 1887. All these materials has been used in bomb making. So the Alfred Nobel is a bomb making man. He is responsible for the future bombs. But under his name, the peoples are getting the Nobel Peace Prize. There is no peace what he did for the world, what he did for the peace of the world. But his name is there. There is an element, there is a synthetic element called the Nobelium after his name. So he owned, or he has founded an organization called the Bofors. What the Bofors did? Bofors is linked to the iron and the steel production as well as the cannon productions. The Bofors gun. There is a Bofors gun that has been used by India and the several other countries. And that gun is used for peaceful use? No. That gun is used in the war. In the war to kill the enemies. He have invented so many things that is linked to the war, to the violence, to the other kind of desecrations, violent desecrations. But the people are receiving Nobel Peace Prize under his name because he founded it, he gave huge amounts of money, and he helped the future regime change operators, that means in today's regime change operations, to use the violence. That is a very concerning moment for India. That is a national security problem for India. Because national security of the northeastern countries and the eastern countries are being compromised after removing of Sheikh Hasina. Sheikh Hasina was a secular leader. She was truly secular. She was protecting his secular fabric of Bangladesh. But the United States looking at her as a dictator because she was not fulfilling the wishes of the United States. She was standing tall against the wishes of the United States. United States wanted to push these regions into the fire. She was standing in between fire and the regime change operators. That is why she was bad for the United States. That is why she was dictator for the United States. This is a very concerning moment for India. And so many leaders of India had started talking about the Bangladesh regime change treatment in India because they are not in power for the 15 years or the 10 years, in the 11 years in row. As a result of that, they need power. They are supporting the violence. They started supporting the violence that recently has been organized by the CIA in Bangladesh. And they are talking about the similar kind of treatment against the recent or present government. This is the time for the government of India to take down these traitors. If they need to arrest these peoples, they need to arrest these peoples. This is not the time for the soft diplomacy. This is the time for the hard diplomacy. If the Indian government need to go for the limited war, then they have to. They have to, because the situations has become very much violent, and the CIA has used its tools in Pakistan and its tools in other countries like Bangladesh, like Nepal, like Sri Lanka, like Maldives. His tool to foment the tensions in India's backyard, and that tension has been created by the man who is the perpetrators, and that man is Donald Lu, who is an American diplomat, currently serves as an Assistant Secretary of the State for South and the Central Asian Affairs. Earlier, he was the US Ambassador to Albania and Kyrgyzstan. He has the controversial track record, and he is notorious for interfering in political process of other countries. He has earned infamy in doing such kinds of regime change operations. He is the main man, and he was responsible for political interference in India. Recently, India has organized the 2024 general elections, and he was there in India, in South India, in Southern India. He was there in the Chennai. He was influencing the political matters of South Indian politics. And when he get back to the United States, he gave a controversial statement that he strengthened the bilateral relationship with South India. This man is very much bad for India. This man is bad for the world. This man is also bad for the United States. And I do not know why Indian government is still supporting this man, or at least not raising the voice against this poisonous and vicious man who is responsible for violence in India. And he should be given the Nobel Peace Prize for the violence, as the Henry Kissinger was given the Nobel Peace Prize. Henry Kissinger was given the Nobel Peace Prize for the violence operations in Bangladesh. In 1971, Bangladesh Liberation War was happening. The Western Pakistani generals were responsible for killing of Bengali peoples, raping the Bengali women, and Henry Kissinger was standing in the favor of them. That is why he was given the Nobel Peace Prize, because he was advocating the United States relationship with the dictatorships of China. At that time, the dictators was responsible. The Chinese dictator Mao Zedong was responsible of killing the millions of peoples in the name of political purge. But Henry Kissinger was given Nobel Peace Prize. Peace. The peace is a business. The wire is the tool. We have to remember that. And all the governments around the world, including the Indian government, has to take care of this man. This man is very much vicious, and he can be compared with Henry Kissinger and Brzezinski. Brzezinski is one of the men who is the regime change operator. Used to be the regime change operator, because he is no more. And there was another man called the John Negroponte. Negroponte was responsible for the Iraq genocides. These are the men should be given the Nobel Peace Prize, because there is no peace in giving the Nobel Peace Prize. These are the political tools has been used by the United States, has influenced, because Norway is clearly engaged with the United States in regime change operations. Because this Peace Prize groups is highly and politically influenced. Because all the 5 members of these groups are from the political parties of Norway. 2 from the Labour Party, 2 from the Conservative Party, and the 1 from the Progressive Party. All of these parties are influenced by the communisms. So this is the end of the topic for today. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. If you have any questions regarding this topic or any other things, any other topics, please comment on my comment sections. I will going to give you the answers. Again, thank you very much. Thank you for your support.